Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Congratulations to all of you that are in here, and families and friends that are in the gallery and in the wings today. I want to thank you so much for the support that you provide to all of us back home and here. This job can be a tough job. As the Speaker knows, and as you who've been here for a little while know, that the challenges that are before us can be very difficult. And I've said this before, but it's for those new members that are here with us today. One of the things that kind of brings me back in is I go to the 4th floor in this building and I look at the class pictures of those who've been here before us in very challenging times. And we are going to be faced with some challenges this year. But like those that have gone before us, they have come up with a way to get the job done. They've come up with a way in the past to work with each other, despite their differences. They've come up with a way that when things seemed impossible or improbable, they were able to set their personal stuff aside. They're able to look each other in the eye and focus in on what those real challenges were and the fact that the citizens sent us down here collectively to govern this state. Not for any special interest group, but for the citizens of the state of Washington. And my hope as we convene today, and as all, well, I guess it's only 97 of us today, we're sworn in, that we are going to do that. That our goal as we move forward is going to be to set a lot of our personal stuff aside without stepping across that line that each one of us has in our own lives. There's a time to campaign. It was a brutal year for that. Amen? Amen. But now it's time to govern. And governing is what we were actually hired to do. Each one of us has approximately 137,000 constituents that we represent, and there's nearly 7 million people in this state that are counting on us to take on these challenges and get the job done. And do it right by them. Not by us, by them. And some of the times, I gotta admit, I struggle with that. Because like many of you, if not all of you in here, you have your own personal agenda. We have our own personal ideals, our convictions, those echo chambers and those citizens and those groups that we talk to all the time that are pushing us really hard to make sure that we meet their needs. And I don't know that if we're really going to be successful, any one of us individually in this job or collectively, that we can afford to have tunnel vision on our own issues. The luxury of having tunnel vision on our own issues has got to be set aside if we're going to get this job done and do it right. And Mr. Speaker, you and I have been able to work, I think, very well the last several years in coming up with budgets. It's only been the last couple budgets actually were some of the strongest bipartisan budgets in decades. And it wasn't because we agreed on everything. My wife is in the wings here, and if I have your permission,
please,
Mr. Speaker, can I introduce my wife, Janice?
Mm-hmm.
Getting back to agreeing with somebody all the time.
How about the two of them getting together?
Yeah, I know. I always agree with her. It may not always be reciprocated, but 31 years later, we're going strong. But collectively, if despite our differences, we can work together, we can be a strong, united front here. We all come from all walks of life. We come from different backgrounds, demographics. Everything about us is so doggone diverse. I mean, we're a pretty eclectic bunch, wouldn't you say? But it's cool to see the fact that we have got all corners of this state represented here. But let's not forget that that person that you're sitting next to, that person that is sitting across the room from you, that person that's going to be sitting alongside you in committee, that person that maybe you just met today may not think the way you do, may not have been raised the way you were, may not have the same background, ethnicity, religion, marriage, all that stuff. But can we set that stuff aside? A few years ago, I was asked to speak at a high school senior class meeting. And I got to tell you, it was May. Nothing like having hundreds of 17 and 18-year-olds with spring fever on a sunny May day, and you're supposed to talk to these kids for an hour. And I was 5 minutes into my little thing, and we opened it up for Q&A. And one of the first questions that was asked of me was, Representative Kristiansen, what's your party affiliation? Gulp. There's no good answer to that, by the way. But what I did is I explained why I had a Republican, affiliation. And as soon as that word Republican came out of my mouth, the room was filled with cheers and jeers and a lot of single-digit sign language. Thumbs up, come on, you guys. And that was just the staff. The kids, the kids had a pretty emotional response to it as well. But thankfully, I did have the mic. And I asked them all, I said, now I want you to all think about something. First of all, I want you to think about your last name. And for those of you who are sitting here on the floor, it's on your desk, in case you weren't sure. And I want you to be honest with this, the answer to this next question. Have you always agreed with and condoned the actions of everybody who has the same last name you do? The place went silent, except for one kid who said, well, I have. And I said, so you've always agreed with mom and dad? Well, maybe not. I said, gotcha. Politics is very similar to that. Let's not put people in a corner or judge them based on their affiliations, whether it be political, whether it be your sex, your religion, and so on and so forth. Let's get to know each other down here. Because as the speaker and I have come to know each other over the course of the last few years, it's been very interesting, our conversations that we've had. Of course, we're always talking about you guys. It's between us, though, I won't share it, I promise. But it's been very interesting for me as I've gotten to know the speaker to understand what really motivates him. Now, the way by which we may want to get there may be different. But oftentimes our goals are very, very similar, if not the same. Let's keep that in mind as we move forward. Because as we've seen at a national level, I don't want to be in like Washington, D.C., regardless of who's in control. We're Washington State. Let's do right by the citizens that hired us here. Let's keep them in mind, because behind every dollar that we're in charge of, behind every regulation that we pass, behind every law, amendment, bill, all the stuff we're doing down here, there's real people that are being affected by and having to abide by those things that we do down here. Let's keep them in mind. Let's be respectful of each other as we move forward. And I want to thank you, Mr. Speaker, for your job and working with you. We've got a lot of work still to get done down here. It's not just education, believe it or not. We've got a lot of other things that are important to deal with as well. I want to thank you all for the job that you do, and I look forward to working with all of you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.